Welcome to another edition of Know Your Schools on WISD TV. My name is Dale Caffey. As you can see, we are at the bus yard, and I'm pleased to be joined by our new Director of Transportation. His name is David Gray. Now, David actually works for Gold Star Student Transportation, and they're the new transportation provider for Waco ISD. We are so pleased to have Gold Star on board. Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here.
You bet. Let's talk a little bit about Gold Star and your history with Gold Star.
Well, I've been with Gold Star for 2 years and have been working with Richard Templeton for about 8 now, and have thoroughly enjoyed it. I came to Gold Star because of Richard Templeton, and he told me about Waco and was kind of selling me on the idea of coming to Waco, and everything I learned about Waco ISD, I just loved. I fell in love with the place, so I'm here.
Very good. Talk to me about Mr. Templeton, who he is. And
Mr. Templeton's the president of Gold Star Transit.
Okay.
So he has all of Texas. It's about 11, 12 facilities in Texas. Some that you may know: Burleson, Eagle Mountain, Saginaw, Terrell, Bastrop, Texas, down by Austin.
Great. Why do you think that Gold Star was chosen by Waco ISD? Obviously, you had a competitive bid, but ultimately you were the one that was recommended to the Board of Trustees, and they approved Gold Star. So tell me why Gold Star was approved.
Well, I believe it was mostly based on our reputation. We have a solid reputation with all our customers, and our background is very, very solid, and it speaks well to us, and we work with our customers, find out what they need. We work with our students, our parents, and our campuses, and it just works really well.
We're going to talk more about Gold Star and getting ready for a new school year in just a moment, but let's get to know you just a little better. You haven't always been in student transportation. Tell us about your background.
Well, my first career was in manufacturing. I'm from Texas A&M, graduated Texas A&M back in 1983.
Whoop.
And yes, sir.
And I'm a Longhorn and do that.
Not at my place, though. Yeah. Thoroughly enjoyed my time there. I actually started in manufacturing, was in manufacturing for a little over 20 years. And made a career change about 10 years ago, and got into student transportation in Pflugerville, Texas. Was the operations supervisor there for about 6 years, and became a general manager last year, and moved up here to be with Waco ISD.
Very good. Now, it's my understanding that though you started as a bus driver, that's how you got your foot into the door, right?
Yes, Dan, that's correct. I started out as a school bus driver and went through all the training that you have to become a school bus driver, and had originally thought about just doing it temporarily. But it grew on me. It's a very much a people business, and I just enjoyed it. It grows on you.
You obviously, during the bus driving days, got a good idea of what it's like to operate a student transportation system. At Pflugerville is a pretty massive, big high school, or big district. Yes, Waco's a pretty big district, and as you can see behind us, we have literally, I guess, over 100 or so buses. Talk to me about the intricacies of running a transportation operation like this.
Well, the biggest aspect of it, the most difficult aspect of it, is finding the right driver for each one of the routes. Making sure that driver is trained properly, and making sure that driver understands what's most important in their day, and that's the students they transport. How a student performs at a campus may be in large part dependent on how they feel when they get picked up in the morning. You know, does the driver greet them? Do they feel comfortable on the bus? What's the situation like on the bus? Are they with their peers, seated with their peers? If there's a problem on the bus, is it addressed quickly and taken care of? And that may involve just the driver. It could involve a lot of support from me, my staff, and the campus that the student goes to. So it's just critical that you have the right person in that seat.
And as the transportation provider, you guys actually hire the drivers. Is that not correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So and you're moving in first time. Are you finding some drivers that were working for the former transportation provider now wanting to work for you?
We do have many that are transitioning over. We provide additional training for the drivers that are coming over. We want them to be part of our culture, which is more it's more coaching, mentoring than it is here's a rule set and you need to follow all these rules.
Very good. Talk to me about what's going on and has been going on during the summer. You had to make a transition. I know that's a busy time for the former provider to move out, you guys to move in, and you guys to try to get a pool of drivers ready for the first day of school.
We're looking strong there. We have drivers that are currently in training. I've got about nearly 20 drivers. They're in some phase of the training. Some of them will be available to us on day one. Some of them will be just additional drivers that we have for absenteeism and those kind of issues, field trips, what have you.
How's it looking right now? Obviously, we're doing this interview prior to the first day of school. Still got a couple of weeks to go. Number of drivers, are you still looking for some?
We are. We're still advertising for some drivers. Last week we put 7 drivers into the flow. I had 6 more that came in earlier this week, and we're in the process of interviewing, make sure that they're a good fit for us. And then additionally, we have to do background checks, and I say we have to do background checks. The checks are actually done by the FBI and the Department of Public Safety. We review their motor vehicle records and make sure that they are sufficient to warrant putting a child on a bus with that particular driver.
Let's say you're still looking for drivers, and there's some out there that really say, you know, I'd love to be a bus driver. I've been wanting to do that for a long time, but I don't have my CDL license. I mean, do y'all help somebody acquire that, or do they have to have one before they come and apply?
Well, we do have some drivers that come in with a CDL and have already driven children on a school bus before, but we do all the training. There's about 20 hours of classroom training in addition to 15 hours for behind the wheel training. And then once a driver gets their license, if there's any additional training that we need to provide, route training, that kind of thing, we also furnish that. Not only is the training free, we pay the trainee while they're in class.
Very nice. And I assume there's classroom to the training and then actually behind the wheel training. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct. It's about 20 hours in the classroom going over not only just how to handle a bus, but a good portion of that is spent learning how to work with children. And as a matter of fact, next week we have our startup meeting on the 18th, and the first 2 hours is going to be dedicated to student management. You
indicated a while ago the bus driver is the first adult, probably besides parents, that the child sees on the way to school, and the last face that tells them goodbye. How important is that bus driver?
It's huge. It sets the tone for that student's day. And from a bus driver perspective, when you greet the child, you know, good morning. Students often just get on the bus and will hardly acknowledge the driver, their peers in the morning. Mornings are harsh for kids, especially in the start of the school year. So you really don't get much feedback from the children on the bus when you're greeting them, but you find out what kind of impact you have later when you get some feedback from a child or a child's parent, because the child has remarked to the parent that my driver always says hello. My driver always tells me goodbye at the end of the school day.
Drivers obviously are greeters, but they also are authority figures because they have to drive a school bus with kids on it. They have a huge responsibility. But when they treat the children with respect, I think they form that relationship that makes the whole trip safer. Talk though about the importance of child behavior on the school bus.
Well, it's an absolute key issue. What we look for when we partner with the parents of the children of the campus is that they support the message that the driver is providing to the children on the bus. Help set the tone, help set that expectation, the same expectation that a teacher would have in the classroom. In the school bus, there's an assigned seat for every student. In the classroom, there's an assigned seat for every student. The first thing you need to have is a rapport with the child, knowing, hey, they have a place, where that place is, and that's where they're supposed to be. Right. When the child gets on the bus and goes to that seat, it's not just their seat. When they go to that seat, they're saying, I respect your authority. Right. Okay? At the same time, the driver needs to respect the child, take the time to learn their names and build that rapport.
Before the driver ever gets on one of these buses that are behind us, they have to go through some last-minute checks to make sure. Talk about the procedure a bus driver does before this bus leaves the yard.
Well, it's a pre-trip inspection, and you know, usually these inspections are starting about 5:30 in the morning before the sun comes up, not like now. And the driver inspects the tires, make sure they're inflated properly. They do a brake system check. They check the engine. They check all the lights. They end up going around the bus a couple of times for air brake systems, which most of our fleet uses air brakes. They do an air brake test that it takes about 3 minutes and is fairly involved. I won't go into it here. The entire inspection takes about 10 minutes. Following the route, the driver also does a post-trip inspection. And again, that's going around. You're looking for what could have happened during the route. Okay, are all the lights still functional? Are the tires still inflated properly? Did you pick up some road debris? So that the mechanic shop has an opportunity to take care of that problem before it would result in a delay the following morning.
Right. You mentioned the mechanic shop. Waco ISD owns the buses, but as the provider, you also maintain the buses or help maintain them. Talk about what goes on in that shop over here.
Well, Dale, right now we have 4 mechanics, and we're adding one. We have one of the mechanics is also a shop supervisor. They've done a very thorough job here for Waco. In talking to the mechanics what the issues are, they indicated, well, we need another mechanic. So as of yesterday, we've hired a new mechanic that has good credentials, and that mechanic is also going to go through 20 hours of classroom training, 15 hours of behind the wheel training, so that he understands what a school bus driver is looking for and how a school bus driver feels when they get behind the wheel.
Right. Okay, school's about to be in session and may be in session with people watching this interview. Let's talk about the importance of the other drivers on the road when they see those
stop arms coming.
The stop arms and the flashing lights.
Yes, sir. There are 2 sets of lights on every bus. One's a yellow at the top. When the driver is approaching a stop within 200 feet of it, they'll actuate a switch that lights up the ambers. Okay. At the time that the doors open, those ambers will change to red and the stop arm comes out. Okay. It's a very critical moment. What happens, and we didn't have that growing up.
Of course.
Cell phones. Everyone has a cell phone nowadays, and we know having a cell phone in your hand while driving is at the very least not a good idea. In some places it's illegal. It takes drivers' attention away from the bus. It takes the driver's attention away from what's going on around them while they're in traffic. We would like, when you're in traffic during those school hours, take the opportunity, just take it out of your pocket, put it away, and don't have that be a distraction when you come up on a school bus. I've had so many conversations at accident sites, which luckily I've never been to an accident site where there was any kind of major injury, either for the school bus or the driver that was involved. But the driver that has hit the big yellow school bus that had all the flashing lights going on says they didn't see it. Okay, and why didn't they see it? It was the distraction of life, of dealing with whatever problem was on that cell phone.
Well, I tell you what, you about covered the gamut. Is there any special message you want to send our parents or the general public out there as the school year is underway?
Well, in the same way that as a parent, you want your child to be greeted by the driver and have a rapport with your child. If the parent would take a brief opportunity to meet their driver at the stop, and I say brief because we don't want the bus to be late to school, or we don't want the bus to be late going to another stop to drop off somebody else's child. Get to know your driver. They're good people and you'll love them.
Very good. David Gray, thank you so much for joining us today.
Dale, thank you for having me this
morning. And you have a great year. Once again, this is David Gray. He is the Director of Transportation for Waco ISD, actually works for Gold Star, the new transportation provider. Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Know Your Schools on WISD TV.